Hello and welcome to the Social Kandura podcast. My name is Gaurav and today we have a very special guest joining us today. Not only did she start her career with the one and only the man himself, Amitabh Bachchan, where she did a 20-part series, she's also acted and featured in movies like Lipstick Under My Burqa, where she played Leela, and also as Priyanka Gandhi under the movie The Accidental Prime Minister. She's trained also by the one and only Naseeruddin Shah. Please allow me to introduce the very talented Aahana Kumra.
I think the last shot was that he's standing here in front of the lift and I'm in the lift and the lift kind of closes. That was the end of the episode. The one thing you learn from that man is discipline and the love for being on camera and the love of being on set. My Masi's beat up criminals right in front of my eyes. You have to feel what that character's feeling, what that person's feeling, so you can just be in that zone right now. Assalamu alaikum Dubai, this is Aahana Kumra for Social Kandura.
Welcome Aahana to the show. It's an absolute pleasure having you here with us at Social Kandura.
Thank you so much.
You look absolutely beautiful. You
Thank
look amazing.
you. I think I'm Dubai appropriately dressed.
Appropriately Dubai dressed. How is Dubai treating you? How do you like the place?
It's lovely and I've come here after 10 years. So,
wow, okay.
You know, lots of catching up, lots of friends to visit, lots of people who want to, just want to, kind of come and meet me. But I'm just trying my level best to kind of make time for everybody. Yeah.
Amazing. And Dubai and Bombay, a lot of people say are like very similar in a lot of different things, from an aspects of, how the people are and how all of these things are. People play a very important role in every person's career.
Yeah.
And we always speak with people and we always understand that there's always been certain set of people who have motivated people, you can, especially when it comes to artists, because it's a very hard place to be. Who are for example, your 5-6 people, your family, your friends, who've always been like, no, you got this, oh, amazing. There's always a support system, right?
Yeah.
Who were those people? How did the whole journey start, in fact?
I don't come from I come from a family where my mother's a police officer. She's been in the CBI for many, many years. She's a deputy superintendent of police. Wow. Okay. My father works in pharmaceuticals. He's lived all his life in Russia, so he lives in Moscow.
Wow.
And my parents never kind of lived together. We are from a city called Lucknow, which is in Uttar Pradesh.
Yes.
And I did my schooling there. And when, my parents kind of, thought that it was important that, we all kind of lived together because we're 3 siblings. And my mother was like, before you start calling your father uncle, because he used to visit us annually in Lucknow. So my mother was like, we need to move to one city, either Moscow or Mumbai, wherever, we can live together as a family. And my father was like, okay, let's experiment with Moscow first. So we lived in Moscow for a few months. And then my mom was like, she didn't get her, because she was from she's a government servant.
Right.
So she didn't get her, her transfer did not come through.
Correct. Yeah.
So what happened is that she was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to take a transfer as a central government officer and move to Mumbai. And I think it was because of my mother's profession that we all kind of made the shift to Mumbai.
Nice.
Yeah. So and I had no ideas. In fact, it was very, very clear that Aahana UPSC exams legi, and I'm going to take my UPSC exams and I'm going to become an officer.
Right.
Because my entire demeanor as a child has always been this absolutely no nonsense sort of a person. I say what I want and I speak my mind and I'm very assertive about what I say and what I feel and what I think, and I speak that,
And it's also like when you have your parents as your role models, you see them doing something, you kind of want to be like them as well.
I also think my entire upbringing was in a police station.
Oh, interesting.
So my playground was a Kotwali. So Hazratganj Kotwali is where my mother was in charge.
Nice.
And, and my Masis and everybody, all my aunts are all officers. So I've only seen women officers around me.
Right,
So there hasn't really been any woman around me who's not been somebody who's not been in a uniform or has not had the, thing to speak her mind or beaten criminals. I've had my Masi's beat up criminals right in front of my eyes.
Wow,
so, when you've had that kind of an upbringing, it's a very different world you come from.
So it's like you're surrounded by these very powerful women and you're just
Yes, I've always had these no-nonsense sort of women around me. So I always thought that was absolutely the norm.
That's how, exactly.
Till you grow up and you go okay, there's a different world. There are also women who are also submissive and don't have the platform to speak their minds,
Correct.
and I don't. So anyways, we moved to Bombay, and I kind of started studying, and I think वो होता है ना, Bombay की हवा लग जाती है.
Correct. हाँ, they say Bombay की हवा लग गई उसको, and she's become all filmy and all of those things.
Actually, I did not become filmy. I joined Prithvi Theatre.
Okay, that's
during
nice.
summertime, and I did Neeraj Kabir's workshop.
Oh, wow.
So I did a 10-day
Okay.
workshop at Prithvi,
Yeah.
and I assisted Sanjana after that, Sanjana
Okay,
Kapoor.
yes,
So I kind
yes.
of like started taking part in Prithvi Festival. I became a volunteer. I
But
started
Prithvi
doing.
is huge in
It is-
Bombay. It's a
I
very
mean,
big
it is,
thing.
It is,
Yeah,
and
it
and
is.
it's nice for children to be able to
Correct.
I think grow in a space where you can experiment with your body, you can experiment with theatre, you can experiment with puppets and voice and
Correct.
everything,
Yeah.
So I think I did that very early on.
Well, how was your, for example, how was your mom's reaction that, Mom, I don't want to join, I want to go for the Prithvi Theatre. Your mom is like, you're supposed to be in training, like, how did this even come to your mind where you went down to go to Prithvi
So
Theatre?
I always believe I'm Malcolm in the middle. I'm the middle child, so I'm the forgotten child.
Okay, so everything
they were
is acceptable.
Forgotten.
Okay.
So they forgot about me. But no, I mean, on the contrary, I think it was because of my mother
Right.
that I am today an actor, because she actually kind of recognized this potential in me very early.
Right,
And she
okay.
realized, while I was in school, because I was always taking part in dramatics, I was always the choreographer for all the dance competitions. I was always
Even back in school as well.
even back in school, I was directing plays. I was doing everything that could like require.
So she picked up that's where this...
She was like, "ये लड़की नहीं बैठने वाली घर पे, और she's not cut out to do a job,
And kudos to her, because
Yeah.
she's really brought out the star in you,
I mean, yeah, I think it is because of her that I'm. In fact, she was the one who sent me to film school.
Wow,
So I went to
interesting.
film school because
Yeah.
my mother was like, you know what? I think you should go and
Do
get
that,
an
yeah.
education, because we are not going to be able to help you.
Correct,
And unless
yeah.
you want to do something where you think you'll get a job easily,
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way to go about. I think my
Correct.
parents are very education driven.
Yes.
So they were like, I think you should study film and you should study filmmaking. You should understand that the nuances of being on a film set, and we cannot help you here.
Right.
So I think
it's
you should
very
do it.
forward thinking from your
Yeah,
mother to
yeah,
just be like, push
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But the first time when you step on the film set, after all your training, after everything else, and when you started off with lipstick under my burqa, and you played a very crucial role in that
Yeah.
as well. And from what I know is doing comedy is actually really hard.
Yeah, it is really hard.
So how was it to be after all of these things, the first film that you get into is like the hardest cookie to crack? How was that, and what experience did you have over then? Were you like, "Shit, I should have not done this. This is too much work," or were you like, you know what, I can flow with this? What was your when you heard the script? What was the whole thing with that?
So, not many people know this, but I did my first film was with Nasiruddin Shah.
Ah,
And
okay.
Nasir Sahab is also my teacher.
Oh,
he was my
interesting.
teacher at Whistling Woods, which is
Okay,
where I
yes,
studied.
yes.
I had my formal education in film.
Right.
And Ratna Pathak Shah, both of them are my teachers.
Okay.
So I'm like their ghar ki bachchi, like literally.
Nice,
So
interesting.
I've grown up like in their home, because I've like done so much theatre with them, and I continue
Right.
to do theatre with them.
Okay.
So when I did my first film, it was a film called The Blueberry Hunt.
Right,
And that
yes.
film never kind of saw the light of day till many years, till after
shot much
Lipstick and all
earlier,
that.
correct,
So
yeah.
we shot in this city called Vagaman, which is in Kerala.
Okay,
And
interesting.
it's a little, like a tea estate sort of a thing, and we
Yeah.
kind of shot there. And because Nasir sir was my teacher,
Right.
and he knew that, what sort of a student I was.
Correct.
So my formal training on my first film set was actually that.
Right.
I was playing a kidnapped victim, and
Okay.
somebody who's drugged. She's from a medical school. She's a girl who's,
So that's
kind
hardcore
of
acting, just from
like
the
it
right
was-
off the bat.
Yeah, so I was very happy to be doing my first film with my mentor, because it was literally like on ground training.
Correct.
So
yes.
I got like hands-on training because of him on that film.
Right.
And we were shooting literally it was a 20 people crew. It wasn't even too
not
much.
bad, yeah.
And we were shooting up in a mountain and sometimes on a hill. So sometimes sound equipment hum hi carry karke jate the.
Wow,
So it was a
okay.
very small film. It was a
Okay.
very small independent
But
film.
I love the fact that you're so engaged in it that you're like, fine, a lot of actresses are like, oh no, I can't do that.
But I
can't do
wasn't. I
this."
was so
Yeah.
happy to be on a film set.
Exactly, yeah.
For me, it was like being in a candy shop, because I was getting trained by my mentor. I remember there was this one scene where I have to, I'm basically all groggy and I'm gagged up, because
Yeah.
I'm drugged and he's been
People have
giving me
kidnapped
these drugs.
you.
Somebody's kidnapped me,
Yeah.
And I kind of wake up and I have to, I see this person and I'm just like, please let me go, please let me go. And he kind of screamed at me, because what happens is sometimes on set, you tend to do ha ha he hoo hoo with everybody,
Right.
like your friends. You
And
make
then you
friends on
snap
set,
yeah.
and then you kind of get out of that zone.
Correct.
So he kind of told me, he's like, you're not going to talk to anybody. this is a very crucial scene for you.
Right.
You're going to sit in that corner and you're going to think about what that character's feeling at the moment.
So not be
So
friendly.
you do what it takes to like make sure that you are not talking to anyone. You will not talk to anyone.
Wow.
So he made me like sit in a corner alone by myself like for almost an hour, and he was like, you're not going to talk to anybody. You have to feel what that character's feeling, what that person's feeling, so you can just be in that zone right now. And I don't want you to talk to anybody till the day gets over. So that entire day, I did not speak to anybody.
So you were completely by yourself, and that was something that was very new to you.
Yeah, it was new to me in the sense like I had done all that in class, but I'd never done that as a practical on a film set, you know.
Correct, yeah. It's more like you read about it,
Yeah.
like, "Achha, theek hai, ye hai, wo hai," but
you
when you
also
actually
do it in class with your friends and all. So
Yes,
there
yeah.
people, like that's a mahal which is very different, you know, from
Correct,
like a film
yeah,
set.
yeah.
So I realized that, you know, there were many things that I learned from him on that set. And it wasn't a film where there was ha ha he he and all that.
It was a very serious and a core film that you did.
It was a very intense film. So, you know, and I got like, and Vagaman is a place which is very nice and quiet and, you know.
Very peaceful.
It was peaceful. So I
separate.
got a lot of space to like kind of explore myself as an actor. So it was literally like doing a 15-20 day workshop with him.
Okay.
With my mentor.
Yeah, that's like,
So,
that's
you know,
the best thing that you can ask for.
Yeah, and we would like listen to Ghalib, or we would listen to like Ismat, or we would read Manto together. So it was very nice, you know.
Yeah.
So that's when like I kind of, and then of course my first show was with Mr. Bachchan.
Correct, yes,
So
I was just
that
coming
was
to
my
that.
debut,
Yeah. How was that working with Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, the man himself?
Fantastic. Absolutely. Nobody dreams of doing your first
Correct.
ever, you know, big professional setup, big professional show with a legend, you know. And working with him, like the first thing he comes and does is he comes and shakes hands with you and he introduces himself.
Oh, really?
He came and he was like, "Hi, I'm Mr. Amitabh Bachchan." I was like, I know who you are, you know. I mean,
but you know, like for example, for us, like common people, when we have a certain perception of Bollywood, you know, we're like, actors are going to be so egoistic and they're going to be this and they're going to be that, they're going to be not on time. Just for the record, guys, she was before time, and I truly appreciate people who always come on time, and she was way before time. So, you know, for us to hear these things, it really is something that's very unique. So when you were first told that, oh, you know what, Aahana 3 are going to be shooting with Amitabh Bachchan, how did you prepare for that day where you're going to be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Or was it just like, and then what the reality was? How different was that whole experience? Because it's a big thing.
well, the first things first about me being on time. The first thing I have learned about being on time is from Mr. Bachchan. Because I worked with him for almost a year and a half. Almost a year, 3 months.
Wow, okay.
And, you know, and the one thing you learn from that man is discipline and the love for being on camera and the love of being on set.
Right.
Because, you know, these things are so temporary. You don't know when this is going to, how long it's going to last.
Right.
So, you know, you can't take anything in your life, I think,
for granted. 100%.
You know. So I think I've learned that from him very early on. And thankfully, he was my first, you know, after Nasir, so he was my, like, you know, my first big co-actor to work with. So, and both these gentlemen are very, you know, particular and punctual, disciplined, you know. So I learned all that from them.
Amazing.
But, you know, working with him on the first day was not very, of course, you know, you're going to face a mega star.
Right.
But the fact that, you know, I was going to go and I was very prepared with my scene. My first scene with him was, in fact, that I'm playing his estranged daughter.
Okay.
And I come and meet him for the first time.
Right.
And he's very like, you know, like happy to see me, but he doesn't know, and we're kind of both holding on to our emotions, and it's a very emotional moment.
That's a difficult scene to work.
It's a very difficult scene. It's the first scene where I think the last shot was that he's standing here in front of the lift, and I'm in the lift, and the lift is kind of closes. That was the end of the episode.
Okay.
You know,
wow,
and I was like, oh my God! Like I remember the power I saw in his eyes when the lift shut, and you know, and he clapped for me, and it was, for me, it was a very big thing to come on set day one and have Amitabh Bachchan applaud you. I think for me it was huge, because for me, my work has always been the greatest. It's never been the person in front of me.
Correct.
I'll treat all my actors exactly the same.
Yeah.
And there is a beautiful innate ability in him to you know, kind of recognize an actor.
Correct. And the potential that this person can have.
And I think what he does is, when he sees that somebody has worked really hard and they have come prepared on set, they appreciate that.
Correct.
And there's nothing that you will... I've worked with some of the best male actors, you know, and of the older times. But all of them are very helpful, and they will always recognize the potential in you, and they'll always see how hard you worked.
That's amazing.
So I think like whether it's Nasir Sahab, whether it's Bachchan Sahab, whether it's Anupam Kher, you know, I've worked with all three. And they are very, very, you know, supportive, and they are like cheerleaders to you.
That's amazing. Very, very, very different from what we hear. So that's amazing.
And they are all very punctual. So
Yes,
I don't think
that's
I
a
don't
good thing.
understand like the kind of myth people have. I don't know about. I've never worked with like a big superstar, but
Okay, yeah.
you know, so I don't know how punctual or non-punctual they are.
Yeah, but this is the new generation, so you know.
But they
it's
are.
good-
You
it's
know
good
what?
to
You'll
see
be
that.
surprised. Like if there's a 6 a.m. call time, everybody's at 6 a.m. on set.
Wow. Okay.
So
Interesting.
this is a very, I don't know, I've worked like in a different world maybe.
Maybe, yeah, but then like what we usually is like very crazy. And you know, with digital moving around and a lot of, as much as movies are being released, there is a big market for OTT as well. And you have done quite a few of OTTs as well. How different is it acting for a movie versus acting for an OTT? Is it, you know, because when we see it, for us from a production point of view, both look the same.
Yeah.
So is OTT harder to do than a movie, or is it the same but it's just like a shorter format? What's your...
So well, I feel what happens in a movie is that you have to tell a story in 2 hours.
Right.
In a series, the format is longer.
Correct.
So you just live with your character longer. You get
Interesting.
a lot more, I feel, attached to a character when you're doing a series.
Correct.
So whether, you know, I've done many movies where, you know, I've been attached to those characters. But I think when you do a series, because you're living for like say 3 to 4 months or like 5 months or 6 months with a character.
You completely absorb it.
And there are so many other parallel stories running.
Yes.
So I think you kind of attach yourself a lot more. And then there's another season. And then
Right.
there's another season.
So it just keeps on.
So you know that you're living the life of this character a lot more longer. The
Correct.
work is the same.
Yeah.
You know, the medium is, and it depends upon what character you're playing.
Correct, yeah.
So, you know, if I'm playing a loud, obnoxious character in something and I'm playing like a really subtle, subdued sort of a character in something else,
Then it's-
that's the only thing that you need to prepare is your character.
Correct, yeah.
You don't have control over the format.
Yeah.
You don't have control
can be
over
anything.
what scenes are going to be kept or what scenes. So any of these, I feel like when I do a film, I feel like that's completely a director's medium.
Right. So you are just the traveler and they're just telling
We're
you.
just storytellers. We're just the medium to tell the
Correct.
story or
Yes.
follow the vision.
Yeah.
But this is not my medium. I mean,
Correct.
it's not my medium, it's the director's medium. Because if the director feels like the scene is a lot, they'll cut the scene, you know?
Correct, yeah,
Or
they'll
if
just
they
cut
scene,
it
I feel like, okay, you know, I need to add on to this, then they'll add on. So I have no say in it.
Right.
I'm just coming and doing my part.
Correct, exactly.
But in a
100%.
series, I feel like as an actor, I've felt over a period of time is that I'm much more involved.
Yeah.
Like I'm involved with the writers, you know, there's like sometimes I just go to the writers and tell them, listen, I think like we should try doing this or, you know.
So
and
it
I
changes
think
all of those things.
I don't think it changes a lot, but I also feel like we are a lot more involved in it.
100%.
You know, and then
yeah.
I seldom feel like they can't, like, you just cannot cut your scenes because, you know, it's a series,
course,
so you know,
yeah.
you have to
You
have
have
like
to
a
go the
long
whole thing,
longevity
yeah.
of your character. So yeah, that's the difference.
And when was the first moment, you know, of course you've been around for a while, a lot of people now recognize you as well. When was that first moment that, you know, someone came up to you and said like, excuse me, can I have a selfie with you? Can I have a picture with you? How was that moment? How was that feeling where you're like, yes, I finally made it?
I don't think I'll ever say I finally made it. I want to be like Zora Sehgal, knighting, like dancing
still on
and
the
chilling,
way,
you know,
yeah.
till like in my 90s, you know. I just want to like continue
going.
doing this all my life because I love
100%.
doing it.
Yeah.
But I think the first time for me, I think it was a huge deal because I did my first red carpet in Japan.
Okay.
So our film Lipstick Under My Burqa was premiered at Tokyo International Film Festival.
Right, yeah.
And so there've been like 2 such incidences with me. So the first time when we watched the film was with a completely Japanese audience. So we hadn't watched the film.
Okay.
And we were in Tokyo watching the film with this, you know, these women in Japan. And, you know, and then in Japan, like what they do is after the screening, there's a long line of people, you know, who want to come and like, you know, take
Speak to you.
autographs.
Oh, nice.
So they speak, but we've got to translate it
Okay.
because we
Yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah,
understand.
exactly.
So what they do is like they come and take these autographs from you, you know, and you're just like, so I remember this one woman, she came and hugged us.
Yeah.
And she just, you know, was like, how did you know our story? And I kid you not, at that time,
She
like,
said, how did you know her? Yeah.
and me and Alankrita are kind of looking at each other and we're just like,
What?
does she mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is Japan. This is like the technologically the most advanced country
In
in
the
the
world.
world. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But you realize the misogyny, the patriarchy is the same in any
Correct.
country, whether it's America, whether it's Sweden, whether it's UK, US, Australia,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, women are living the same lives, women are fighting the same battles, we're actually battling the same problems
Correct.
everywhere across the globe. So this is a global problem.
Right.
So I think like a film that's been made in a small town, Bhopal, resonated
Same
with somebody in Japan. Similarly, I've done another film which kind of premiered in Korea. Me and Soni Razdan did that film.
Right.
And that film talks about loneliness and depression. And there were women in Korea who kind of like after Busan Film Festival when the screening got over at Busan, there were women who kind of told us the same thing, and we're just like, oh my God, So I feel like women's problems across the globe are the same. So
Fair
we kind
enough,
of, and that's when I was just like, oh my God, you know what? For the first time in my life, I've done something that has resonated with somebody globally.
Correct, yeah.
So this is
and
the
not
first
just,
time I have,
yeah.
And I was like, this is not only in my country, but this is a global thing that I have done.
Correct,
Which is something which and I felt very proud of it. I was like, and I'm not making a khoon bhari maang where I'm going and dhakoloing somebody in a
But yeah, exactly. It's not a very dramatic
I'm not doing
setup,
anything dramatic or trying to like grab eyeballs.
Correct.
We're just telling stories about everyday battles that women need to fight in their day-to-day lives.
Exactly. And
so
that's
that was huge
so
for me.
Yeah.
Another time when I felt like this was when I did my first press conference for Youth. And we had all flown to Delhi, and I was seated right next to Mr. Bachchan, and that was my first press conference. I didn't even know what a press conference was.
Right.
I didn't know what you say at a press conference, what people ask you. And every 5 minutes, Mr. Bachchan was like, Aahana will answer your question. And I'm like,
what do I say?
What do I have to? I don't know what to say. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, so I can't.
Help me. Yeah.
So it's really like fun. So I've had like these two really,
So those are like pretty interesting and pretty.
I've also had like with Nasir Sahab, where I did my first play. I did my first ever professional play with him. It's called Arms. It was called By George. It was George Bernard Shaw's 2 short stories. So we did one, and there was another set of actors who did another. And people had paid 300 rupees to NCPA to come and watch my play. Correct. So I remember the show got over, and I ran to Nasir sir and I hugged him, and I couldn't stop crying. And he was so emotional because for him, he's seen me literally
you from a kid and go up,
like literally I've grown up in front of his eyes. So for him also it was a very proud moment to see that professionally somebody had paid tickets to come and watch our play.
Exactly. And that's a very
So I've had very, very kind people around me. Like I've had very, very kind mentors.
Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. We were at Film Fair the other day, and we saw a huge fan following for you as well. Of course, you were looking gorgeous. You were looking absolutely amazing. Had the opportunity to speak to you on the red carpet as well. And huge fan following you here in Dubai as well. Any messages, any key things for your Dubai audiences that you're here? Anything, any projects, anything that we're working on for this?
Well, that's a surprise. I'm writing something, and I hope that's on floor very, very soon. And I hope the audiences here love my work and appreciate everything I do. I'm so thankful and I'm so grateful to everybody for supporting and loving everything I've done so far, because I've always had very unconventional choices of films.
Yes.
So it's not been the most conventional, but having said that, I still have people who recognize me.
Correct.
And and follow my work. So I'm very, very grateful to each one of them.
Sounds good. Thank you so very much for spending so much time with us and being so candid about everything.
Of course.
It was absolute pleasure having you, and we look forward to seeing more of your movies and everything else that's coming in. Thank you so much.